हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ
पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दम् कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतट जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलं प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
So, namaste everyone. Last time we went through the introduction to the value of values, and today we'll be starting with the first value, which is amanatana. So just a second. Okay, here we are. Okay, so let me just put down an order the way I see it over here. So, Abhinavji, do you want to begin?
Yeah. Is the PDF same as the book? I just got the book.
It's not exactly the same because the PDF is somewhat compressed. So that's why I really recommend if everybody can go and buy the book because the PDF probably contains like 75% of the material. So there will
Okay.
be a couple of paragraphs which might be missing.
Okay, then I'll read from the PDF.
Yeah.
Amanitvam. Amanitvam is the first value listed. Amanitvam comes from the Sanskrit word manaha, which means self-respect, self-esteem, extending to conceit of haughtiness. Thus, mm, what is this
Uh,
word?
I think it should be Manaha, but I am not sure. There's
Manaha,
a
yeah, it is Manaha, yeah. So, thus, Manaha means an exaggerated opinion about oneself. Manaha does not imply that one is without qualifications, but rather that whatever qualifications one has in one's mind as worthy of respect and regard from others. The one who has Manaha is a Mani. The addition of tvam to mani creates the abstract noun manitvam, which stands for the essence of the quality, that is, for exaggerated self-respectfulness or self-worshipfulness. The prefix negates the meaning of the word, so amanitvam indicates absence of self-worshipfulness. A simple factual self-respectfulness is not a harmful quality of mind. In fact, it is a good quality. A problem arises only when self-respectfulness is exaggerated into self-worshipfulness. When self-respect becomes self-conceit, exaggerated, it does not just undesirably affect my attitude towards myself, but it manifests in my demand upon others to show me the respect I feel is my due. When I demand respect from others, I invite many disturbances into my mind. Demanded respect rarely will be given to me upon my terms, if at all. The person upon whom I make such a demand may not respond, or he may, suffering from his own manitvam, respond with hostility or by making a demand upon me for a greater respect. The result can be mutual hurt, friction between us troubled minds.
Yeah, this is all very relevant. And it's interesting that, over here they use the word tvam. So we've seen that a lot in Sanskrit. Like, for example, if you are a Shishya, then Shishya tvam becomes your quality or attribute as a student. Or even the word which we see a lot in the media these days, Hindutva, right? So it comes from the same root over here. So the essence of being a Hindu, that what makes fun a Hindu is the Hindutva. So anytime you add tvam to any word, it really becomes an abstract to it, like water and wetness. So the wetness is it's kind of like the ness that you have in English. And so, any discussions on this? Okay, I guess we can go to the second subheading.
Hari Om. What is the basis for Manitvam? What causes me to make a demand for respect upon others? The cause is not found in my solid respect for my own qualifications. Although qualifications I may indeed have in good measure, but the cause is found in a deep underlying doubt in my mind about my own qualifications. When I am completely certain that I have in full measure the qualifications that I claim, I have no need to demand from others respect for for those qualifications. No matter how strange or polysyllabic name is, I don't demand respect from others for my ability to spell my name. In fact, commendation for this skill would be insulting. I take for granted this ability and do not concern myself with it. Manitum arises because I am doubtful about my qualifications. I do not seem to accept myself as one who is qualified. The demand upon others for recognition shows that I need some support so that I can feel that I am somebody. This demand comes from an inner sense of emptiness, a lack of readiness to accept myself as I am, because I secretly fear that what I am is not good enough. Although I assert my qualifications, I am really all too conscious of my limitations and am afraid to acknowledge limitations or have them recognized by others. I do not want a response from others to my limitations, but only to my qualifications and not just to my qualification, but to my qualifications in the glorified light in which I view them. Thank you.
Any comments here? So, here we see Pujasamji doing a very deep psychoanalysis of the human mind where he shows why Manitvam really arises. And when I don't accept myself as what I am or as a qualified being, then automatically I depend upon this Manitvam to, to pretend somehow to be a somebody in front of others. So this is what leads to so a lot of people when they expect you to be very respectful towards them. It could be based on their professional qualification. It could be because of their age. It could be because of their achievement or some knowledge that they have. So when a person expects others to respect them, it's just showing a lack of self approval, so to speak.
And it's very common amongst youth these days. Like for every small thing, they need an approval from others. Like right from what they dress and to what they choose for themselves. Like even the smallest of the decision they can't make on their own. They need approval from everyone. So uh, it's really been seen amongst teenagers these days. So yeah, as age progresses, that becomes a habit. So one can never become independent.
Very true. And we've all seen there are always like family members, friends, elders who feel bad about things because you did not give them enough respect or you did not consult them. And so, there are so many people I know who feel bad just because, you have a problem and you did not consult them first. So their, agenda is not really to solve the problem as much as for you to come to them first and to have it solved. So this manitvam can really become a problem even for a person who's knowledgeable because then they feel that they somehow have a right over other people with regards to what to demand from them. So, as Unnati pointed out, that this self-worth is an essential thing that we need to cultivate in people because with self-worth will also come humility. When I know what I am and what I'm worth, then I need not make any demands from the rest of the world. I'm fulfilled just as I am. Shall we do the next section, Binaji?
Yeah, I can't see it on the screen.
Is everyone else able to see?
Yes.
I'm able to see. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Demand for respect leads to hurt.
Hmm.
People give respect to others for various reasons. Sometimes respect is given solely because the person to whom the expression is made is in a position of power. In such cases, if the position comes to an end, so does the respect. Other times, respect is given because there is some genuine appreciation of qualities in the other person. However, Respect voluntarily given is subject to the whim of the giver. What he finds convenient to give one day may be too much the next. Also, the giver may cease his respectfulness if it is not returned to him in kind. If he too has an ego that requires extravagant support, he may find it deflating to extend to another without return in kind. So he stops. A relationship in which there is such a mutual demand for respect is likely to become a tug of war all the time. Hurt is the usual end result of the demand for respect. Hurt based on bloated ego. Hurt.
Actually, that's the next section, Binaji.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Any comments here, like on what we did?
Yeah, I think this tug of war thing, no, that
Yeah, very true.
goes on endlessly because you want that respect and then the other person wants it. So, because you're not complete in your own self, so you're looking for it outside, and so this tug of war continues.
Absolutely. In fact, I've seen this in so many people's relationships also, right? When people go to college and they begin dating and so on. Like, oh, I called 2 times in a row. Now I'll wait for her to call. I called 3 times and she didn't call. She called back and then, she didn't call me for a week and now I'll wait again. And, that kind of thing. I've seen this happen in such petty cases that you wait for the other person to give you that first sign of acknowledgement before you are ready to return it back. And as I say, the bigger you are, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So if your manitum is really big, it's going to hurt you just as bad when it gets violated. So
I
very
think a
true.
lot of it's seen in a husband-wife relationship as well, because they think that it is based on the respect that one is supposed to be giving, and in terms of respect, it is not understood what it is actually. So this tug of war goes on all the time between a husband and wife, so many times in a relationship.
Yeah.
I have a question here. So,
Please.
is it possible? Okay, suppose let us assume that I mean, in the transactional world, I mean, unless we don't have an identification with the mind, is it possible at all to live in the way that Swamiji is suggesting without getting hurt? If your identification is with the mind.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to understand. So you're saying if you are identifying with the mind, is it possible to not get hurt?
Yeah.
I will venture an answer here, I suppose. I would say it really depends upon one's inner maturity, so to speak. Because here, if you look at the world objectively, then things are what they are. The situation is what it is. If we are able to accept it very gracefully, and if we are able to accept our conditions, then we no longer expect things from the other, right? From the significant other or whoever it is. And Pujya Sabji does not say that one should not have expectations, but one should turn things into a preference. So one should turn your attachments into preferences, because ultimately it all boils down to me being attached to a certain thing. Like even if I expect somebody to treat me in a certain way, that is an attachment I've created for myself, because that's a condition I've created which I want fulfilled, and its lack of fulfillment displeases me. So if one is able to maturely turn their conditions and attachments into simple preferences, as Swami Paramathanandaji also says that desire is not bad, and here it is again a desire to want to be respected, to want to be loved, to want to be acknowledged by others. So yeah, I feel that if one has reached that plateau, and certainly I haven't, because there's always some reason to feel mildly bad about certain things in life, but for people who really have, I think it gets much better, if you just have an objective viewpoint of life. And I don't
So
even
my
mean a jnani, even a simple karma yogi, right? Let's take a person who's an absolute karma yogi, not a jnani. If he accepts whatever comes to him as prasadam, then he can
uh-huh.
never reject it, right? From a very theoretical perspective.
Then what is the need for Brahmajnanam for such a person?
Sorry?
Then what is the need for Brahmajnanam for such a person?
So for such a person, what we are describing so far, and this is what Swamini Brahma Prajnanandaji told me, which is that we are looking at a sthit prajna over here, a person who is extremely equipoised, extremely just in equanimity with the world, with the conditions around. But this is still not equivalent to Brahma Jnana because the Sthit Prajna nature can go away. You know what I mean? Like a person may not always be a Karma Yogi all the time, but once you're a Jnani, there's no turning back. So here the Jnanam is Sarvatma Buddhi, that I am the self of all beings. To be able to look upon oneself as that would separate a Jnani from a person who's a perfect Karma Yogi, ideally.
No. So I'm asking what is the need for Brahmajnanam for such a person? So I understand what's the difference between a Sthita Prajna and a Brahmajnani. But I mean, these are just technical differences, right? But what exactly is the need for such a person to go for Brahmajnana?
Because he may lose the sthit prajna at some point, or at least that attitude of being a sthit prajna in that given moment. It may not last always, because if avidya is there, then it can go away also, right? And it's a very desirable thing to have all the time. So we've all had moments when we do feel, at least in a glimpse, we may feel like full, right, and limitless in an instant. Like if you're looking at a sunset, there's nothing bothering you because there's no individual, there's no sun, there's only that beautiful sunset, and you are completely absorbed in that given experience. So anywhere, any experience where duality is resolved is fullness. And that's why we have like these different gradations of samadhi also, right? You can have a bhakta who's in the samadhi when he's worshipping his Lord, or you can have a dancer who's samadhi when she or he is in wrapped in this beautiful dance, or a singer who's wrapped into the song. So, but then that does not last for long, and therefore that's why a person who is still living as a karma yogi, as long as the avidya is there, it is very desirable for him to completely remove it, because who knows how he may feel the next day, the following day. So it is desirable for a person to be a Brahmagnani just because it is eternal and there's no going back. That's how I would look at it. That could be a better answer.
Prashant,
What are your thoughts on that?
can I say something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Here, what I understand is like self-respect and self-worshiping. Here, the self, what exactly its meaning is the ego or mind, body, and intellect composition. So the discrimination of this self is not me will obviously reduce the hurt, whatever caused by this impurity in the mind. So the right discrimination, if we have a basic logical discrimination that this whatever self I am claiming is not a real self, what I am actually. So obviously that discrimination itself will reduce the intensity of the hurt.
Yes, that is also definitely true, that the intensity will reduce. And when we say reduce, one need not even be a jnani in that perspective, as long as you're able to cope up with the situation better. So I think everybody knows Swami Paramathanandaji's FIR, right?
Yes, that's right. Right.
So Swami Paramathanandaji gives a measure for your qualifications, and not qualifications, but basically what's your progress over here in terms of Vedanta, in terms of assimilating this knowledge. And so the F stands for frequency. So how frequently are we bogged down by a particular negative emotion or thought or whatever? I stands for intensity. So how intensely does this negativity come and hit us? And R is recovery. How quickly do we recover from it? So when we take the function of these three and when we kind of like put them together, and then we are able to gauge our own progress. So for a person who's an Ajnani, you can have varying degrees of FIR. But if you like multiply these things together, and if you're like Jnani, it'll be zero, because there's no frequency, there's no intensity, and there's no point of recovery, right? Because there's nothing that's afflicting you. So we are always somewhere in between. We are always between that zero and some arbitrary number. So our goal as sadhakas, as karma yogis, as dharmis, and as students of Vedanta is to reduce this over time, and this only comes through emotional maturity by assimilating some of these values and so on. So definitely, as Jagadish ji said, that this does lessen over time, and as we develop in our vairagya and our viveka, then these problems have a lesser hold over us.
Yeah, I would like to add something else. Like Abhinavji has asked, like if there is any state like we cannot get hurt at all. Like we'll take an example, like a person who has lost his legs. uh, if he is identifying with his mind, he will be keep on whenever he see the external world. So he will be, if he is identifying with the mind, so he will be seeing the other person who is well, who is good enough, who is doing better. His, if he is identifying with mind, basically he will be collecting thoughts related to that he is lame, he is lame, he is lame. But here the self is, he is identifying, if he is identifying with mind, so here the self is become already a body. So when he stop identifying with his mind means, basically whenever he see outside through jnana, I'm talking with jnana, he will not be identifying with the body. If he is identifying with the body, obviously he is gathering the thoughts for this thoughts like I don't have my legs or something like that. So basically, if somebody is not identifying with the mind, obviously they will never have the thought. But the frequency, as you said, FIR. So that intensity will be there, but it will be very very less.
Yeah. And also, when the body will always have problems, but the mind can have reduced problems, because ultimately the problems that belong to the mind are rather subjective versus the objective problems belonging to your physical body and the life situations. So if a person loses a job, if a person breaks a leg, if a person like bashes his skull somewhere, these are like serious problems which will definitely give a person having dehatma buddhi a lot of pain. But a person who is at least, who's surpassed this identification with the body to a decent extent, and also identifies with the mind but has a relatively calm and clear mind, then that person will also not suffer as much. So there will always be moments of pleasure, and there will be some moments of pain. But if we take an ideal, because again we can only speak in ideal terms, right? If you take an ideal karma yogi, then he will take everything that comes to him as prasada. And therefore, whether the person gets cancer or the person gets new Mercedes Benz, he will take everything with the same equanimity, just because he has that attitude of prasada buddhi. But then it may go away also. There might be some affliction which may enter his life, which may be so vast that even he cannot handle it, right? And so that is the difference between how he would handle it versus how a jnani would handle it. Because for the jnani, there's nothing that bothers him really. Now, Pujya Swamiji also gives the example that it may appear externally that the person is bothered. Now, it could also be a jnani. So he says that, if a person's house is burning down, an ajnani, right? So he will see his house burning from a distance, and then he'll exclaim, like, what? Like, what just happened? And he'll be really shocked and hurt and, deeply troubled. But then he says that this kind of sentiment may also emerge from the jnani's mouth. The jnani may also say, what? But that is only because of his past vrittis, right? Some of these vrittis hang around in the mind. They are simply habits which have not gone away yet. But that is not equivalent to saying that he is actually troubled by it. Because immediately after saying what, the jnani will say, so what? Right? So what? And then that doesn't mean that he'll just sit and watch the house burn. He'll bring out his hose and he'll like water it out and all. But the thing is that he will not react further. The reaction was only a reaction of the mind, but it is not something he identifies with. So again, to Abhinav's ji's point, I would probably edit my comment a little bit and say that the if the person is identifying with the mind, then that what and the so what, the distance may not be that near. And so the mind, if the mind has some troubles, if the mind has certain vasanas which have not been resolved, then even if he's living as a like perfect karma yogi, there might be still a few instances when he might be troubled, though he can easily overcome those. But if you're a jnani, then yes, that pain will not at all be there. It will only be a response, a spontaneous response of the mind, but the identification will not be there. So does that actually make it better? Uh, if I explained it correctly?
Mm, I mean, I think it's a. I'm still not very convinced.
So I don't really, probably I'm not getting the question very well.
Abhinavji, uh, I
So,
will.
I mean, I think the original point was clear, but the later one wasn't clear. So you're basically saying that there is a possibility of the relapse of emotional suffering for a karma yogi, and you're saying that there is no such possibility for a brahmajnani.
Yes, and then the reason I say this is because I recall the point you made saying that what if you identify with the mind and you're transacting through the mind with the world, identifying with the mind. That is an important point I caught.
Yeah,
So
because the nature of mind is apurnatvam.
the nature of the mind is a Purnatvam, but the jnanam also takes place in the mind, right? I mean,
No,
I'm
no,
just
no,
saying that
no.
if
No, 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 no. I mean, so for a karma yogi,
hmm.
when the nature of mind is apurnatvam, it will always seek for purnatvam. So whatever, so however great a karma yogi he might be, he's still apurna, right?
So I don't know if the seeking itself really is a problem. Yes, if you're, yeah, you're right about that. That if you're seeking, if you're a permanent seeker, then yes, you're apurna, and in effect, you are somewhat troubled. But what if you are performing your day-to-day duties simply as karma yoga and as arpana buddhi? That whatever I do it as an offering. See, you're not bound. This is what Swami Pramathanji talks about binding desires, right? And so there again, I don't really see that a person who's seeking, who's going out in the world to gain some kind of accomplishment also,
Uh-huh.
is actually troubled. I will say he's not a jnani, I will say he's not a brahmanishta, and I will say that there is a high possibility that he may be pushed back and forth by the pangs of life. But it's not necessary that a person who's seeking and who's doing and who's living a life of karma is actually apurnam in that sense, because he still performs actions with arpana buddhi, that whatever I do I dedicate at your feet and everything is fine, and whatever comes to me, but he's simply working out his vritti as in his what do you say, the mental desires which are there, right? He's acting through his desires, he's making sure his desires are dharmic, and then he's living a life by fulfilling his desires.
Okay,
So in an
so
ideal world, how could he be troubled if he's an ideal karma yogi?
no, okay. Even buying your point, I think it's fair enough. I don't see why there should be a relapse of emotional suffering.
But that is the thing, we don't know which vasanas are lying unaddressed. So,
But those vasanas are there even for Brahmagyani, right?
right, but the Brahmagnani, as by definition, does not identify with the mind, right? And therefore, the mental faculty will continue to function. The speech may also say, "Oh, what just happened? My house is burning." The speech may say that, but he's not identifying with it. At the back of the mind, the nishtha has taken place that I am not the mind, versus the other karma yogi who says or who doesn't have that conviction that I am not the mind, and he identifies as the mind, and therefore, if the mind is temporarily troubled, that trouble is his, it becomes his. Whereas for the Brahmagnani, even if the mind is troubled, and as you said, the mind cannot be Purnatvam, but he's not identifying with it. So that's a difference.
No, there's still an attitude to not to make a big deal out of the trouble for a karma yogi, right?
But
So
if
I
he's
mean,
identifying,
so in effect, maybe if I can put it this way, the sorrow that is faced by the temporary sorrow that is faced by the Brahmagyani is the same as the temporary sorrow that is faced by a karma yogi.
how can a Brahmagnani face any sorrow?
Uh, okay, no, you're saying that so there is a vasana which spouts a particular reaction.
Right.
So even in the case of a karma yogi, there's a vasana which spouts a particular reaction. I'm
Yes.
saying so the reaction time for both the karma yogi and a brahmagyani is the same.
Yes, so let's suppose that the time is the same. And again, this is all speculation based on how we see it, right? So
Yeah.
there's no absoluteness here. But let's take supposedly that the reaction time is the same. But the difference being that the Karma Yogi still identifies with the mind, and therefore he identifies with that emotion. He identifies with the hurt if the emotion is one of hurt. Whereas the Brahmagyani is simply witness to it all, right? So he has a Sarvatma Buddhi, that I am the self of all beings and I'm also the self that's enlivening my mind, and therefore the reaction escapes from the mind in both their cases, but it only is what do you call it, it's apparent in the Brahma yogi, whereas it is very real for the Karma yogi.
I'm
So
saying the reaction is what that matters, right?
see, so the reaction is only an external one, right? That's
No, I
why.
mean
Hmm.
so I'm not saying the external reaction. I'm talking about the internal reaction.
But the reaction emanates from the mind, it escapes from the mind, but you're not identifying with the mind. Therefore, who's the one who's in trouble? The mind has the problems and the body has the problems, right? But the jnani does not have problems. That's what I'm trying to say. The karma yogi will have problems if he's identifying with the mind, whereas the jnani does not identify with the problem at all, and therefore, who is the one who's actually in pain in that temporary instance? It's the karma yogi.
I mean, if the mind has a problem, it gets hurt. So that contradicts your original point that karma yogi doesn't.
No, so that's what I said. So then I edited my statement saying that because considering that the Karma Yogi identifies with the mind, therefore the mind is the one that is hurt. And if you're identifying with the mind, then you are consequently hurt because you're identifying with the hurt. Whereas a Jnani does not have that identification at all.
So yeah, so that comes back to my original question that is it possible at all if there is identification with the mind to not get hurt?
If you're an
So
absolute Karma Yogi, an ideal fellow, and
yeah,
these vasanas somehow escape you because of course you cannot resolve everything in your subconscious, then yes, you will still actually get hurt in some of these rare instances, but otherwise if you are able to live through equanimity you will be pretty much grounded. That's what.
so
But yeah,
compared to so let's put it this way. So compared to a person who's not a karma yogi,
hmm,
so of course he'll the FAR of hurt will be less for karma yogi,
absolutely.
and and there's no comparison with the brahmagyan.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the Brahmajnani is just a completely different
Yeah.
species. He's not
Yeah.
identifying with the Sharira. He's not identifying with the Avasthas. He's not identifying with the Manha. All these identifications have completely been dissipated by the Brahmajnani.
Yeah.
So he simply witnessed to it all. So if the mind is in trouble, he knows that yes, the mind is in pain, but it is not his pain. The pain belongingness is not there.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but this was a really good actually discussion. So thanks for initiating it. Very subtle points these are, no? So it takes a lot of thinking, to be honest.
Can I add something more?
Yeah, please. Can you come closer to the mic or speak louder? Because I hear like there's almost like a vacuum cleaner in the background.
Is it okay? Uh, what Abhinavji was trying to say is like the ideal mind, like I'm not identifying with the mind. Uh, what I would say will like if you take a baby or a Brahmagyani or a state of a deep sleep state, they're actually the identification with the mind as for a baby and a Brahmagyani is like you can say is almost zero. Not it's not ideally zero, but it's like a deep sleep state also. So here the actual identity we can visualize at least how much we are identifying. Matlab, how identifying with the mind means what that we can visualize with these three states. So a karma yogi, what I understand is not perfect. Maybe if he is having jnana, still he is slipping down. He is not able to cope up. Like he is not able to stabilize in the jnana. Every time, without his conscious, he is identifying with his mind. So long we are identifying with the mind, we gather our emotional thoughts, and for a jnani and for a karma yogi, the intensity for the karma yogis will be far reduced compared to the normal person
Yeah.
because of the discrimination what he has. If he has a right discrimination, like this he is getting hurt after knowing this, still he is identifying with his body, mind, and intellect without his consciousness. Without his consciousness, he is identifying. That's why he is getting hurt. For a jnani, he is not at all identifying with his mind. The pain which is given by the body, he will accept it, but he will not get the emotional pain which is created by the mind, like so-called ego. So that pain he will not have. That is
Yes.
what I think.
No, that is true. In fact, is there pain for the person who's jnani? Yes, there's pain, but it's for the body. Is there pain for the mind? Yes, there is pain for the mind because again, we've gathered countless janmas of like emotional trauma, and something or the other will surface at some point or the other, right? It's all stored in your subconscious memory. And so, there might be some nimitta which may just give rise to a certain impulse, which may give rise to a very unhappy thought. We cannot determine some of these things. They are not predictable. But as you very rightly pointed out, the Karma Yogi has resolved a lot of his issues. Because what does Karma Yoga really do? Karma Yoga is a resolution of your ragas and dveshas to a large extent. Your ragas and dveshas are very well controlled by you because you're a Karma Yogi. Because your attachments and all have become more or less non-binding, right? They become binding only if you absolutely have a condition that things should be in a certain way. Whereas for a person who's at least assimilated karma yoga to a large extent, he has this kind of non-binding desire that he's turning everything into a preference, and he's turning all his achievements and all whatever he has as abhushanams. So they are ornaments that he wears because he realizes that I am simply a caretaker. Everything that is there belongs to Ishvara. So this relationship with Ishvara also shields you a lot from all these harmful tendencies. But the one key point, the key takeaway I can really think of over here is that you inherit the problems of whatever you identify with. Let's put it this way very succinctly. Anything that you identify with, you inherit the problems of that identified object. So if I identify with the body, I will inherit the problems of the body. If I identify with the mind, I will inherit the problems of the mind as and when they arise. Now, whether I can bring these problems into control or not, or how well I'm able to deal with them, is a different matter. Because we cannot really predict when a certain thought may occur, right? These vrittis come and go like waves. So it's very difficult to pinpoint it. But yes, if a vritti were to occur which is painful, and if your identification with the mind is there, then that pain is yours. And if you don't identify with the mind, then the pain no longer belongs to you. It simply belongs to the mind.
Yeah, but then can we say that Jnanam alone can remove Manitvam?
Oh, no, 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 no. Manitvam, Jnanam will definitely, a Jnani will have no Manitvam. But even
Right.
if you assimilate these values, so see, remember, these are values which prepare one for Jnanam, right? So
Right.
the Amanitvam, Ahimsa, all of these values we talk about, they are preparatory steps which will help us turn our attention towards Chitta Shuddhi. So amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, aparigraha, all of these things will help condition our mind to become very placated and to become very clear and to become very relatively trouble-free so that we can make place for knowledge to happen. And I don't say to gain knowledge, but I say knowledge to happen because it occurs spontaneously when the mind is prepared. So, if somebody touches a hot spoon or a hot vessel, on your skin, then you will jump. You did not need to perform an action for the knowledge to take place, right? All you required was prepared. This sounds stupid, but you needed a skin that is prepared enough so that it can feel, so that it has these nerve endings which can get the sensations. Similarly, a mind that is prepared, knowledge occurs spontaneously there through mere exposure. You simply need the exposure through the Shravanam. A simple Mahavakya such as Tattvamasi can completely liberate a being who is very well prepared. So all of this goes towards preparation. All of this goes towards karma yoga. It all goes towards chitta shuddhi. So yeah, if a person has gained relatively high levels of chitta shuddhi, then he can put his manitvam to ease. Now, there might be an instance where suddenly something, again, like we don't know when the pangs of vasanas hit us hard. And so one emotion might just arise where the person feels particularly bad about something. And that is not in his control. But at least in his day-to-day transactions, for the most part of his life, he has these things under control. And for the small things he doesn't, yeah, definitely you need to be a jnani to resolve it completely. So listening to, Swamiji's lectures, we can relate back to the sadhana chatushtaya. The sadhana chatushtaya help prepare you for jnanam, and at the same time, it prepares you for Vedanta, right? It's a qualifier for Vedanta that, if I don't have Shraddha, if I don't have Titiksha, if I don't have Nitya Vastu Viveka, even to a small extent, then Vedanta is useless to me because I will dismiss it. I will treat it as kachara. But for a person who has this, Shraddha and Samadha and Mumukshitvam and so on, then Vedanta will further enhance the qualities which make Vedanta assimilable. Does that make sense? It's kind of like a positive feedback that the sadhana chatushtaya will help you develop the jnana nishtha, and the jnana nishtha will further develop the sadhana chatushtaya. Similarly, here when we see all these values, amantvam and all, these things are developed when one becomes firmer in knowledge, and even becoming firm in knowledge will help you develop all of these values. So it's kind of like a positive feedback loop.
Yeah,
So
so it's a progression.
it's a progression. And
I think, Prashantji, so to answer in one word Unnati ji's question, as per my understanding, the answer is yes.
I forgot the question actually.
Yeah, yeah, Unnati, could you please repeat
Yeah.
the question?
So,
So the
what I
question
meant
is,
to
you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I meant to say was that okay, karma yoga is a stepping stone. Like you cultivate all these values, and then you reach a stage where gnanam will so called eliminate manitvam.
Yes. It will completely eliminate all of these doshas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Prashantji, can I
Yeah.
add something?
Please, please.
Whatever the qualities here talked here, like 20 qualities, uh, the jnanam is I am jnanam, and these are the impurities in the mind. Because of that, I am misidentifying. So basically, jnanam is there. I am itself. So this impurity we are trying to talk about, and we are trying to identify this personality, and we are trying to remove. This impurities are removed. The net result is automatic. It is there. Which we are getting it through and enjoying it when we are in deep sleep also. So, like this is an impurity. This has to be removed. The impurity is removed. Jnanam is quite natural.
Yes.
That
So
is what.
that is very true, but I'd like to make one small modification there because, you're absolutely right. Jnanam cannot take place unless and until impurities are removed, because this is what you call pratibandhakas. Pratibandhakas are obstacles which get in the way for knowledge to assimilate. A mind that is not prepared is not a mind that is ready for knowledge. So you're absolutely right about that. But the thing where I believe perhaps you also wanted to mention is that. One still has to gain, so-called, like, allowed knowledge, the exposure to knowledge, right? So what I mean to say is that only removing your impurities is not enough. That is the first step. Here chitta shuddhi is the first step. The next step is actually jnanam, right? So shravanam, mananam, nididhasanam is a must. So going back to the example where you touch something hot to your body, here the preparation, and again it's a very simplistic example, but the preparation is that your body needs to have these pain receptors, or just nerve endings which are able to have the sensation of pain, of heat, of temperature, and so on. So if that is not there, then even if I touch like a log of fire to your skin, you will not react. There will be no reaction. You'll just get burnt up. That's all. But here, at the same time, even if your body is prepared, if you have the nerve endings, if you have the sensation, but if I don't expose it to that impulse, then you will not feel anything. You see what I'm saying? So here, similarly, a mind that is ready can remain ready, and it can stay ready for countless lifetimes, and nothing will change. It will keep taking Janma until and unless it is exposed to the knowledge. So that exposure through the Shravanam, through the Guru Mukhya, has to be there. So the Ved Guru Vakeshu Shraddha, right? That is Shraddha. So the Shastra has to be unfolded by the Guru as a Pramana, as part of your Shravanam. Once the study is done, and if you're extremely well prepared, then you don't need to do much more after that. But then, of course, you may have some intellectual doubts, and then you remove those things by mananam. So all of these, value assimilation, chitta shuddhi, and all of these other things, they are part of one process where you're actually gaining nivritti from the jada malam, which is like the gross forms of impurities. But there's another so-called form of impurity which Swami Paramathanji says, which is ignorance. And ignorance has to be removed through knowledge. So the knowledge will not arise spontaneously until and unless there's exposure to it. So that exposure is a must. That's what I mean to say.
Prashantji. Yeah, what
Yeah.
I was trying to say is like obviously the jnanam has to be attained through a guru. What I'm trying to say is the mind's impurity. What we're trying to discuss about is the impurities is being removed. Uh, if the mind's impurity is removed, the mental status is as calm as a jivan mukta. But that is with ignorance. Let's say a karma yogi has all the good qualities, whatever talked over here, 20 qualities. Obviously, he will be in a calm status, a calm mind, the whatever, however we are in the deep sleep. So this including the mind's purity plus the jnana what we will attain through a sadguru. Like the status of karma yogi with all these qualities with ignorance, that who he is he don't know. And the next stage is with the guru kripa we attain the jnana.
Hmm.
Then with the help of these 20 qualities, purified mind, it will be instantaneous, very very fast.
Yes.
Basically, the the speed is reduced because of the impurities in the mind.
Very true. Very true. And I remember one of my teachers saying that exactly to what the point you said, that for an Uttama Adhikari, the highest of Uttama Adhikaris, he doesn't have to go through all the Upanishads also. One Mahavakya, Tattvamasi is enough. Or, if we take the example from a Shastra, right? Varshishthanteva Sadrishi Ganera Vrata Brahmanishtaihi. So this is from the Dakshinamurti Dhyana Shloka, that all these old aged rishis, who were, of course, very prepared, far more prepared than we can imagine. All they needed to see was the Chinmudra of Dakshinamurti Bhagavan, right? The Chinmudra which represents Tattvamasi. And that's it. Their job was done. So the Guru did not even have to unfold the entire Upanishadic teaching, say that you are this, you are that. He just had to show the Chinmudra, and that hit the home run, so to speak. So, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. To a completely exposed mind, that is all that's required. Sorry, a completely prepared mind.
That's right.
Very true. So, shall we go to the next section?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can read this. Who's next? Jagdish ji?
Hurt based on plotted ego. Hurt is possibly when there is a plotted ego price. Any form of hurt, if analyzed, is found to be only pride. Inflated ego Inflated ego is a disproportionate, excessive significance attached to what I know, what I feel, what I possess, what I do, how I live. With this overemphasis of knower, doer I comes the expectation of a certain response from others recognizing my importance, seeing me as I want to be seen. When that response does not come, then comes hurt. A hurt, deflating ego tends to spend a lot of time planning how to teach the one who brought about the hurt a lesson. And since a prideful ego picks up a lot of hurts, the list of those to be taught a lesson is likely to be long. For such a person, sitting quietly in meditation is not possible in the firmament of the mind of one with a hurt ego. The luminaries are all the people who cause the hurt. It is upon them he dwells in meditation. Want me to
Yeah.
continue? Uh, Hurt is always a monkey's wound. There is a proverb which says a wounded heart is like a monkey's wound. It does not heal but only gets reopened. The hurt mind may seem to be healed and then a sudden shadow crosses the face as the hurt is called back to the memory and the hurt reopens. Like clouds before the sun, gloom closes in. There is no time for the Vedanta in the mind of the person who is always nursing hurts, and one who demands respect accumulates many hurts to nurse.
True. Any thoughts here?
So, I mean, this just gets me thinking that so whenever a person, when he is not fulfilled within himself, that's when he causes hurt to others. Am I right in understanding this?
Absolutely. Because if you are fulfilled, then you have no motivation left to hurt anybody else, right? So a lot of people have this thing that, if I know I'm in a bad position, but if somebody else is worse off than me, then I somehow feel elevated in that sense, right? Or similarly, if I feel that somebody has not acknowledged me, therefore I should, give the same lack of acknowledgement to the other person, or I should not recognize the other person. If someone does something wrong to me, then I should do it to them. And for sometimes even for no reason, if nobody's done anything to me also, just to kind of release my tension, whatever suffering, pain I'm going through, I go and I cause pain to somebody else. I may shout at somebody, I may kick a dog by mistake or on purpose or whatever. So a person who's completely satisfied in the self has absolutely no motivation to harm another being, not even a fly. Because nothing that we do is really mindless, right? There is at least
Yeah.
something that drives us to do something that's wrong. Now, dharma is often spontaneous because it is the nature of a calm and complacent and peaceful mind to be dharmic, to be sattvic, to do good things, to say good things. But if you're doing wrong things, it could be either your past tendencies, your basically your wrong habits which are coming to the fore, or you have like some serious motivation to go and mess with others. So these are the only two reasons you will really do something wrong. One is, because you getting something from it, or the second is because you have a tendency to do so. And that tendency is again something that needs to be broken through nididhyasana. So nididhyasana is simply habitual error removal, and this can even be extrapolated to other things such as our emotion. So here, with the Vedantic context, the habitual error removal is wrong self-identification. But the same exercise can be done to anything else, and so that is something that we call vak tapas in Shastra. Vak tapas means reflecting upon our faults. It's not something such as being self-critical and hating oneself, but it is being very aware and being very cognizant of one's own issues. Because, one of my strengths would be to be able to recognize my weaknesses, right? So to know one's weakness is also one's strength. And so to be able to find and analyze and avoid any actions which are a consequence of this weakness is a great strength, which is something that has to be cultivated. So I know Swami Tattvavidananda ji suggested that we should at least spend 2-3 minutes a day before we go to sleep, reflecting on all the things that we did and whether we feel we could have done something better. So a person who eventually comes to resolution and has reached that place where he absolutely is comfortable with himself will not go and damage anyone else. There's no reason for it. So
Also, can I add this overemphasis on a knower doer I comes the expectation of certain response from others
yeah,
is very important, because that is where the expectations come in because of the that duality that exists in my mind.
yes, because the karta and the bhokta are two sides of the same coin. So as long as I treat myself as a knower doer, I will also treat myself as an enjoyer and sufferer. So
Correct.
I will enjoy the fruits of my actions and I will suffer also from the fruits of my actions because I feel that they belong to me. So yes, you're absolutely right. Shall we read the next section? Sumeji?
Yeah.
Qualifications.
Qualification should speak for themselves. It is fine to have abilities and to use them, but abilities should be allowed to speak for themselves. My attitude towards my accomplishments should be like a flowering bush towards its blossoms. In the city or in the wilderness, seen or unseen, praised or unpraised, the bush puts forth its bloom. No publicity circulars are sent out to announce the blooming. Whether appreciated by somebody or not, the blooms come forth, colorful and fragrant. The bush simply blooms because it is meant to bloom. It asks no respect and claims no glory. It blooms because bloom is must, and this is the way I should be about my gifts and skills. These abilities seem to have come with me. Why, I do not know. I should simply I should simply use them as well as I can, because that seems to be what I am supposed to do. People who have a value for these particular abilities may give me some respect for them if circumstances are right for them to do so. People who have no value for these particular abilities, no doubt, will ignore them. Neither attitude should make any difference to me. I should let my actions themselves command respect from those who are able and willing to extend it, but I should never demand respect.
Very true.
Yeah, very well put.
Yeah.
This is like the plant has to bloom. That is its dharma. That's what it's doing.
Yes. Even if we look at Pujya Swamiji, like, how much has he achieved? He's achieved enough that we cannot do in 100 lifetimes also. And yet he's never expected anything from anybody else. He simply shines because it's his nature to shine. The sun simply shines because it's his nature to glow and to give light and to feed all the life forms on this planet through energy. So, one's achievement should speak for themselves, and one should try their best to simply accept it. Whatever I have is because of Ishvara's grace, it's Ishvara Krupa, and one should not really expect acknowledgement and praise and accolades from other people, because that adds to your manitvam. Because the more I demand respect from others, the higher my bar goes, right? My bar of demands will also rise higher and higher. So I think a long time back I saw an interview when I was young of Amitabh Bachchan, and he was talking about one day when he was very disturbed, and he went to a restaurant, and he said that I was deeply disturbed by going there. So the interview is asking why, and he said because nobody looked at me. Usually I go to places and people clamber towards me for an autograph, and here people totally ignored me, and it made me feel like absolute garbage. And so he said that it brought tears to his eyes, and he could not really stand it. So this is what happens, right? I mean, and he acknowledged it, which is a great thing, because this is something that a lot of people undergo, a lot of celebrities and all, but they don't talk about it. So, if we make demands, it kind of keeps growing and it keeps feeding, and then the demands become more. And ultimately, when things shatter, or when this is why we see a lot of celebrities also commit suicide, right? And this is very popular thing in US also. In fact, I was reading something long ago, and during the silent film era, up to the 1920s, there used to be silent films, and then they brought in sound. So the silent film actors did not get roles in those sound films, and many of them actually were driven to suicide. They got or many of them became very depressed. They had such a great celebrity life before, and now they were nobody because nobody watches silent films anymore. So this is something that we have to be extremely careful about, that if you achieve something great in life, take it as a prasada, take it as a blessing, but don't become too haughty and arrogant about it, because it will ultimately come back and bite you, and it'll add to your manitvam, of course. Unnati?
Yeah. Manitvam is replaced when its foolishness is seen. How can I obtain the attitude of amanitvam or the absence of manitvam, absence of the demand for inordinate respect from others? Amanitvam is obtained by losing manitvam. I do not have amanitvam because manitvam has become a value for me, although no doubt I would not own up to this. Manitvam is a value for me because I think that by receiving from others large amounts of respect, I will feel good about myself. Manitvam will cease to be a value for me when I clearly see for myself that the basis is false, and moreover that it does not work. We have already seen some of the reasons why a demand for respect does not work, namely, not everyone will have a value for my particular qualifications. Not everyone will be able to show respect to me, even if there is a value for my qualifications, because of their own ego needs. The showing of respect will be subject to the inconvenience, mood, and whim of the one making the expression. In this regard, one more observation can be made: it is often not easy to decode another person's attitude from his manner. If I am obsessed with the amount of respect I am receiving from other, I can waste a lot of time trying to analyze his words and gestures and still not know what his real attitude towards me is. A curt manner may conceal a real value for the other person's qualifications. A rejecting manner may mask a real attitude of respect which is clouded by jealousy or competitiveness. Thus my concern with the respectful attitudes of others is a tremendous squandering of my mind's time, inasmuch as so many factors having no bearing on the true value of my qualifications may affect the attitude of others, and in any event I may be unable to truly to read the attitude of others from their manner of words. Therefore, if I take the time to analyze the factors involved, I will see clearly that demanding respect from others cannot bring me much comfort or satisfaction, in spite of the reality of my qualifications. In addition to this insight, a further understanding of the absurdity of demanding respect from others will come if I examine the basis of the qualifications for which I want respect.
Wow, this was a atom bomb.
Yes.
I mean, this definitely takes constant reading.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess the mask automatically gets shed off once you have all the values assimilated. So that layer of pretense will not be there. And if a person has not assimilated these values correctly, then they will constantly strive for manipulation or jealousy and competition, and it will always be surrounded by them. So
Yeah.
I guess this is very true.
Yeah. Also here, when somebody says a curt manner, when I'm extremely rude, curt towards others, it shows that somehow I'm showing some kind of I'm not really acknowledging the other person's value, the real value of the other person for whatever ego of mine that's hurt. And here, if you reject the person, then you are basically doing it because you're jealous, because you have that sense of competitiveness. So many times, we may see somebody's achievement and we may not praise them just because we are jealous about it. And we may say, Chodo na, this is completely useless. So what? Anybody can do it. So anytime a person says such things, Samji says, anytime you say, if somebody says something good and you say, I don't care, it actually means that you really care a lot. Because otherwise you wouldn't say it. You would actually, nod in agreement that yes, what was achieved was a really great thing. So one thing that Swami Paramathanandaji says is that we should cultivate the habit of accepting the praise of others. And if possible, we should also praise other people. Now, I'm not saying like you go and butter people up, but you should praise people for their genuine achievements. You should not hide from that, because when you admire somebody for what they've really done, it really comes back to you. You are able to become a more accepting person. You're able to gain that amount of self-respect because you're so objective about this fact. You're not clouded. You're not wearing a mask that, okay, I know this person's done something good, but I should not be praising him just because it hurts my ego. So this ego clash should really go away. We should appreciate people for their qualities, whatever it is. So I guess I can read this section. Any comments on this so far? I know this is an extremely heavy text in terms of how much there is to assimilate and how much there is to reflect on. Every line is a powerhouse if you really think about it. So should we just proceed? Manitvam never is justified by accomplishments. Manitvam is born because I do not understand the nature of accomplishments. I claim the honor for my accomplishments because I consider myself the author of the acts, the producer of the skills or gifts. It does not take much analysis to smash this illusion. This analysis can begin with my physical body. For any skill or gift, there must be a body to wield it. The body that houses me I did not author. It came to me with a certain inherent potential or predisposition. Even if I subscribe to the belief in reincarnation and consider this body a vehicle shaped by karmas, I can claim neither authorship nor knowledge of the particular laws that ordain this body. Whether this particular body more reflects my overact actions in past lives or my parents' subtle actions, prayers for a healthy, intelligent child, at the inception of this life, I do not know. Moreover, I cannot trace this body back to some first or originating body in a karma sustained cause and effect chain of bodies. My Jivatva, apparent separate individuality, housed from the moment in this particular Rupadi body, is Anadi, beginningless, like the creation itself, of which it is a part. I am not the author of creation, nor am I the author of my body. Therefore, whatever possibilities I have to appear to have been provided to me, I can exploit these abilities, but I did not create them. Even in the exploitation of my skills, sheer ability often is not the determinant of success or failure. When I look at any achievement, I find that it is there because of certain opportunities I had, as well as because of my personal effort. I cannot claim to have created or commanded the opportunities, they were given to me. I happened to find myself in the right circumstance, so I could grow and learn what I needed to learn. I met with the right person. I happened to read the right book. I enjoyed the right company. Someone came forward with the right guidance at the right time. There are so many factors behind an achievement. I cannot really say I created any of them. When I look at the facts, I must see that any achievement that I claim as mine is not due to my will or skill alone, but is due to certain things that were provided to me and certain opportunities I had. Therefore, there is no place for Manitvam when I see the nature of accomplishments for what it is. For whatever abilities I seem to have, I should be grateful. My demand for respect from others will go away when I see its foolishness.
Wow, this was amazing.
Yeah,
So much to learn in a short span of life.
it is, it is.
Yeah, and all these grudges and everything just go away when you start seeing all this as so foolish. Like even if like once upon a time at a young age we might have behaved in such petty things, we realize that okay, that was so foolish. Now that we think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it makes us very, very humble to even know that, whatever opportunities and being at the right place, right time, so many people and so many situations, contributing to what we come to a stage is the most important part that I've gathered is the humility that goes with your achievements.
Yes. And to what Binaji and Unnati said, and Soumyaji, there's nothing like, Swamiji says that there's nothing like a self-made man, right? A lot of people have this kind of pride in their achievements, and rightfully so to an extent that they've achieved certain things, but they have that manitva behind it. And they say that, look at me, I did not take anybody's help, I've not taken anybody's support. I am what I am because of my own effort. We've all seen these kind of people in lives. So, Swamiji says there's no such thing, in fact, because the very fact that you're born, right, your physical body is given, your health is given, your mental disposition is given, the fact that all your karmas brought you to this particular situation is a given. There are so many things which are a given, which serve as a starting capital for you to build upon. And if you did not have the starting capital, you would be nowhere. And so we have this whole chain of, whether we call it the parampara in terms of our genetic lineage, our grandfather, our great grandfather, our great ancestors. We are grateful to all of them because of so many factors we are here today achieving what we have today. And therefore, in effect, you are really grateful to the whole Jagat, right? Because it takes an entire Jagat to conspire for you to be where you are. The laws of karma handle these things, the laws of manifestation handle these things. So everything is a given. The bio, and this is what Puja Swamiji says, this expression that it is given. The biological order is given, the biochemical order in your body is given, the physical order is given, the psychological order is given, the emotional order is given, the intellectual order is given, the laws that govern nature, the laws that govern karma, all of these are given. And you function within these, and then you somehow treat it as some great achievement of yours. But when we take everything as a given and we look at Ishvara as this very order, then we become extremely humble, we become extremely appreciative of whatever that is that we have, and this really helps us assimilate the values well. So this is something that we should all imbibe in our life, to look at it is all given as a krupa of Ishvara.
Yeah, and since it's given, it's our duty to contribute back also. So once we understand that, okay, we are consuming so much, then we should have that attitude to contribute and give back as much as we can. Like whatever we have, we should not be constricted because of manitva.
Beautifully said. And that's why Puja Swamiji has a small booklet where he gave a talk which is called becoming from growing from a consumer to a contributor. And I think, maybe you can share a little bit of Swamini Brahma Pragyanarji's session that you attended where she spoke about this.
Yeah, so exactly. So Swamiji said that since uh, when since the time we are born, we have been consuming so much, like right from early childhood to the years of growing, we have been consuming so much from this jagat, like all the resources we have been using uh, to a large extent. Not that we can even think and measure it. So it's now our time to contribute and give back as much as we can. We don't really give a thought to it, but yeah, the amount of food that we were discussing, that imagine the amount of food that we have eaten, the amount of air we have consumed, the amount
Yeah.
of water we have taken. So yeah, a lot of resources we have just used it up.
Yes.
So yeah.
See, then we are damaging this ecological order. We may be good with our relationships, we may be good with our family, but then we are damaging this whole ecology which has given us so much, right? The air that we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, this beautiful world that we look at, the sky, everything that brings joy to you is derived as a result of the very fact that everything else is a given. And you're able to enjoy life to its fullest because it is a given. So, we must be extremely grateful. And I think in the Gita also there's a lot where it talks about ecology and how you should give back to the environment. And our Shastras also say that anytime, you plant trees. Plant trees where you can, you take care of the environment, you do good things. This is all dharma. It's all part of Bhuta Yagna where we take care of all life forms around the Jagat. So yeah, we have to become contributors from consumers. We have to grow to that level. And we have to carry the world on our shoulder because that's what we've been riding on so far. So shall we do one more subheading before we close?
Yeah, we
Uh,
can.
yeah. Who's
It's
next?
Abhinav. I think it's
Uh,
Yeah,
Abhinav.
Abhinav.
me.
Yeah. So I'm supposed to read now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How can I help myself see the foolishness of Manitvam? If I assume the position of a dispassionate analyst, ready to spot and analyze Manitvam every time it pops up, Manitvam will soon disappear from my mind. If I recognize it for what it is at the time it appears and examine it carefully, I understand its foolishness under the particular circumstances. After a few such inspections, it will lose its value for me. When its foolishness is truly seen, I'll no longer feel that it serves any purpose for me and it will drop off. To be effective, I must conduct my analysis of Manitvam without self condemnation or regret, just matter of factly try to see things as they are. When someone fails to respond to me in a way in which I would have them respond, I just watch my own reactions without further reaction. From the position of observer, I see the senselessness of my expectations in all their absurdity. In addition, I see that what I really want is not an expression of respect from others for its own sake, but because I hope such an expression will make me feel more comfortable about myself. I see that my real problem is my basic feeling of inadequacy and self-doubt, which is made worse, not better, by harboring Manit.
Yeah, I think Pujaswamiji is an expert level psychologist also. Just his, intrinsic grasp of the human mind, so intricate it is. Like the way he recognizes problems, the way we deal with it, not just like recognizing it and theoretically saying, okay, this is a problem, go solve it. He actually walks you through these baby steps of how to go about approaching the problem, what are the tools to use to, go and rectify it. So I'm ever impressed. Every time I read anything he writes, he always addresses the human tendencies in the mind. So it's beautiful. Uh, I think Niti, you had to go now, right now.
Yeah, I'll be leaving.
Okay, okay, I see. So yeah, we'll probably wrap up shortly. So does everybody want to close here? Is this a good point to close, or shall we like complete one more subheading? It's a long one. In fact, I say let's just complete it because then we can start with the next value, the next following session.
Yeah, I think that's better. Let's
Yeah,
complete this whole value today.
yeah. Binaji? No, Ashwini
No, it is Beena ji actually.
Binaji, okay.
Yeah, okay. Should I read?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not seeing it on my screen. Yeah.
Now? Hmm.
Manitvam mithyas mithya. There are a lot of things which are mithya. In fact, all perceivable things are mithya. Mithya is that which enjoys a dependent rather than an absolute reality. This dependent reality called mithya, which characterizes creation, usually is translated into English by the word apparent, by which it is meant to indicate that the reality is not absolute but is subject to negation. All objectifiable things in the creation are mithya, apparent. They begin and end, and they can be resolved in ever finer progressive resolutions into constituents. However, apparent things, although subject to negation, still enjoy a certain level of reality. Is that okay, or should I continue?
Yeah, I think you can complete this whole thing.
Manitvam, on the other hand, the ego which manifests as manitvam or pride does not enjoy even apparent reality. Ego is not even mithya. When I search for my ego, it is not there. It disappears. It just goes. I find there is no such thing as ego. It does not require self-knowledge to discover that there is no such thing as ego. Just a careful, dispassionate analysis of the source of my skills and abilities and of the history of any achievements I claim will erase the ego, will knock off the prideful claim that I am entitled to credit for some achievement. Manitvam, ego pride, is mithya's mithya. When I see this, when I see that ego cannot even be justified as blessed with a dependent reality, when I see that manitvam is a myth, it will just disappear. When manitvam goes away, what remains is amanitvam. Amanitvam is not developed. Manitvam is eliminated. Amanitvam is very natural. When I enjoy amanitvam, I become a simple person. A simple person is a person who doesn't have any complexities. Manitvam, pride, bloated ego, simply goes when its foolishness is seen. It is not a practical advice to be told to give up pride or ego. Irrational as it may be, a prideful ego is very common, particularly in Western society, where individualism has come to be so highly prized. Ego is a problem. Emphasis on individualism makes a person more proud and more subject to the hurts that go with pride. However, ego will not be banished until I can replace it with knowledge. In the light of knowledge, ego, pride, manitvam becomes silly. Ego is not given up. Ego goes. Ego goes in the light of a certain understanding. It does not require self-knowledge to see the foolishness of the ego. When I see that foolishness, I will be able to keep ego to the minimum useful level necessary to conduct my affairs. I will also enjoy amanitvam, a quality of mind conducive to discovery of self.
Beautiful.
I like this when, that it does not require self-knowledge to see the foolishness of the ego.
Yeah, just a understanding mind, that's all.
Yeah, just an understanding mind. It is so foolish when, we have that pride and the bloated ego. And when we look at all the contributions of everybody, it just has to go away. I mean, the ego just has to go.
Yeah. And over here, as Pujasamji talks about the simple person, by nature we are all really simple people, but we add these complexities to our own life. So there's one example he really likes giving. Well, there are a couple. One is of the cow, right? The cow never feels insecure that, oh, I'm so fat. The elephant never says, oh, I'm so fat, I'm so this, I'm so that. Very simple. It is very comfortable being itself. It just has an elephant nest, which is okay with it. It doesn't want to be like a goat or doesn't want to be like a tiger. Elephant is okay being an elephant. It does not really have those complexities about self-identity and so on. And similarly, like he gives an example that we all know what dog shows are, right? Like there are competitions where these dogs win prizes. So it is actually the person who gets sad when the dog loses. The one, but the dog is going to bark and wag its tail regardless. The dog doesn't care what happened, whether it wins or it loses. They're not affected. It's a very simple animal. And here, yeah, it's simple because it doesn't understand. But then sometimes, as I say, ignorance is bliss. But the problem arises when there's partial ignorance and there's partial knowledge, because then the whole world becomes chaotic. So if we look at the state of deep sleep also, we are very satisfied over there, as Jagdishwar ji pointed out earlier, that deep sleep is a state of resolution of the mind where you are not fraught with any difficulties. And that is because there's total ignorance over there. But the problem arises when there's partial ignorance, such as in our waking state, right? So when we know that, yeah, I have some understanding of the self, and yet I don't have the knowledge of the self. And by knowledge of the self, I mean assimilated knowledge of the self. So there's partial ignorance and there's partial knowledge, and therefore the whole world is chaotic to you. But for a jnani, there's again full knowledge. The Atma Vidya is completely gone. It's vanquished. So it's replaced by Atma Vidya. And so if you're totally ignorant, it's fine. If you're like totally knowledgeable also, it's fine. But that gray shade in between, that's where all the problems are created. And that's where we create all these mental projections. So in that regard, animals are like better off than us because they don't undergo these complexities associated with self-identity. They suffer. They definitely suffer, but not from this like mental issue about like, oh, who am I and why am I so bad and so. So it's very interesting to
Yeah,
understand this mind.
I think to be simple is quite easy. In fact, to be complicated, it's very difficult because you have to plan and scheme and all those complexities. But to be simple is just so very easy, and that's a quality I think we need to develop, because instead of trying to be more complicated, just be.
Yeah.
And that is the simple nature that you have, but you like to make it complicated by putting in all kinds of things which are complex. So it is easy to be simple, actually.
Yeah. Simple person is a happy person.
Right. Yeah.
Prashant ji?
Yeah.
Uh, Very nice points, really good points. Uh, I would like to add one more thing. Like this basis, this quality is impurity actually, impurity in the mind, which is rising. In Karma Yoga, we say like whatever do prasada buddhi. Okay, uh, but actually it is a fact that we are trying to only assimilate it. That it is a fact. Like uh, what I try to say is like to remove this impurity. Basically, we have to understand this ego is as a ego is doing nothing. Ego is like what is it told us it's a myth. Like basic understanding. Whatever Unnati ji also told, like the nature also has to help. Say the sun is not there, we won't get food. Without food, there is no energy in the body. Basically, if sun is not there, I'm not there. This is one of the case. Okay. Another thing is like the one more Swamiji like Paripurnanand is there. He used to tell this point. He's Puja Gurudev's Shishya in Andhra. So he used to tell, see, I claim that I have done this job. Okay, but are you the person who is fluttering your own heart? Are you the person who is running your own all internal organs of your body? You are claiming that you have done. Actually, to do that, you have a life in your body. If that life is not there in your body, you cannot even do anything. You cannot even move your hand. But this ego is claiming that I have done it. This is because of the ignorance. Basically, I'm not doing anything basically. Only I'm the instrument. The ego who claims that I have done, he is only an instrument. This understanding, discrimination should be perfect. And one more, whatever you said is like this: the animals don't have this thought. This is a good thing. We have to ponder on this. Like uh, basically, not only I'm assimilating, I'm only instrument. I am an instrument. As an ego, you are an instrument. There is not even a single iota I'm doing it. This understanding, this discrimination will remove this impurity very far and more. It will remove impurity. Basically, I'm not doing anything. The ego it's a myth. This quality itself is a myth. This impurity itself a myth that I am doing. This is basically because of the ignorance. I think I am the body and the individual personality. This discrimination itself will remove it. Jnana, it will add up. Jnana will add up like then this is not the then this discrimination. So I think this impurity can be removed. That is what I think. Basically, I'm not doing anything because I'm not running my own internal organs. I don't know how it is going to flutter. If I run for a 100-meter race, I win. It is not my victory. It is everything is given to me, and everything is it is the grace of the God. My every step is the grace of the God. If the life is not in the body, I am nothing. If this understanding discrimination, this impurity will be clashed. That is what I think.
Very true. That's why we see that Nitya Anitya Vasu Viveka, or just discrimination in general, is listed as the first most important qualification. So if that is there, then pretty much everything else is there. That this it's kind of like Drishya Viveka, right? That I'm able to separate myself, my identity from the body, from the mind, from the senses, and so on. So yeah, that's a very good point you make, definitely. So next time we'll be seeing Adam Vitvam, which is I see Abhinavji said this. We can probably like check that out once we commence, once we stop the lecture. Um, so next time we'll be looking at the second value.
What did I
And
say?
sorry,
What did I say?
this you said this, right?
Which one?
Oh, sorry, Neshkar mein Siddhi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is by Prasad Krishna Ji. Yeah, common friend. Yeah. What does it say? I haven't read the full site yet.
Okay. So, I just wanted to point out, so pertaining to the earlier discussion about difference between Jnani and Brahmagyani and Karma Yogi.
Okay.
So it says that I wanted to make a limited point using the which I can call a formula given by Sureshwaracharya ji. So he says that so the 7 points in that link under the heading introduction. So
Okay,
one is a
let me share
consequence
the
of the
screen
other.
so everyone
So
can see.
1 implies 2, 2 implies 3, 3 implies 4, and so on.
Okay.
So duality, perception of duality leads to Shobhana, Ashobhana, Adhyasa. So Dvaita leads to Shobhana, Ashobhana, Adhyasa, which means that you have a certain perception of something which is favorable to you, something which is unfavorable to you, things which are favorable and things which are unfavorable. And then Shobhana, Ashobhana, Adhyasa leads to Raga Dvesha. So you start liking the favorable things and you start disliking the unfavorable things, and that in turn leads to dharma karmani, which is good and bad actions. The raga dvesha basically lead to good and bad actions, and this in turn leads to punya papa, and punya papa in turn leads to deha prapti, and deha prapti leads to samsara.
That's beautiful.
So all of these start with perception of duality.
And that is eradicated by Jnanam, right? So
Yeah. So this even a karma yogi will have.
Karma Yogi, yeah, he'll also have duality, yes. Very nice. So yeah, this is the jada, the seed.
Yeah, but the points 2 to 7 will happen to a lesser
Karma
extent
Yogi.
for a karma yogi.
Yeah. No, definitely, absolutely. This is beautiful. I'm glad you sent it. I'll probably copy paste this for my notes.
Yeah, this is actually an amazing formula.
Yeah. Have you read? Wait, let me close the session. I'll ask you a couple of questions. We'll discuss this website. Um, Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om